Hello everyone, we're going to be talking about some poetry terms today. Now these are probably going to be familiar to you. I'm going to ask if you can figure out what the definitions are or what the term means based on the examples. So let's get started. The first term we're going to talk about is something called alliteration. So if you're looking at these, it's asking you to find the pattern that makes them alliteration. So you'll notice in this first one, as the day unfolds, dusk demands daylight. Just looking at that, day unfolds, dusk demands daylight. So there's a repetition or a pattern of something. And if you notice, it is a d sound at the very beginning of these words. The next one says, the wind made a silken certain swing of each purple curtain on the wall. See if you can hear the sound in there. The wind made a silken certain swing of each purple curtain on the wall. Do you hear the repetition of the s sound? So you'll notice in this case the silken certain swing. Now, what's important about this one is that you notice that it is not just a letter that we're listening for. Alliteration is not about a letter. It's actually about a sound, okay? And in this case, this qualifies as alliteration because it's s, s, s. The fact that one of these is a C doesn't make any difference. It is still considered alliteration because it is about a sound, silken, certain swing of each purple curtain. In that same way, you'll also notice that this C does not count as alliteration because it makes a k sound, and we are looking at a repetition of a s sound, okay? So what you'll notice in the next one is the same kind of pattern. I see the flesh of a church, the flicker of a flame. So you'll notice that in each of these, for it to be strong alliteration, we have at least 3 repetitions. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickles. So in that one we have more, but you need at least 3 for it to be strong alliteration. You'll also see it down here, 3 thoughtful thinkers thought through 30 Thursday afternoons. Woo! So you'll notice that it always is at the first part or the beginning of the word. It's at the first part or the beginning of the word. It cannot be alliteration unless it is at the very beginning. It might be something, but it's not alliteration unless it's at the very beginning. So on this next slide, you have all the answers here, nice and pretty, without all of my writing on it. Let's move to the next slide. This one says, what is the definition of alliteration then if all of these contain it? Well, this is what I was just speaking to you about. So we have alliteration is at the beginning of a word. It's the beginning sound. And remember, it's not the beginning letter. It's the beginning sound of a word. And it's several times, in our cases, 3 or more. Like in tongue twisters. You guys probably have those in Spanish as well. I think there's a tres, triste, tigres one that you probably know and I don't know as well. So those are alliteration. And the sounds must be very close in the same line or surrounding lines. But I want to see if you can catch something here. So this one says, revise or alter your definition because this one only has 2. It says not 3. Notice it says for the rare and radiant maiden. So this is alliteration because it has rare and radiant, but it's not good, not strong alliteration. It only has 2. And so we want to have 3 or more when we talk about this in strong poetry. So noticing this next one, the king killed 14 pheasants on his hunt. We have 2. We don't have any more k sounds. And if you're good, you will have noticed that we also have some alliteration here. 14 pheasants, but again, it's only 2. It's the double F sound, f, but it's not 3 repetitions, which is what we really are looking for. So it has to have what I call a three-peat. Kind of rhymes with repeat, but it means 3 times very close together to count as strong alliteration. So So, knowing what you know then, my question is this alliteration based on your definition? Once I wandered weakly and finally found my path. So you might have said, it's got 2 W's. Nope, it only has 2, except the trick is this word, once, it's not a W, but it still makes the W sound. Once I wandered weakly. And so in that case, do we have 3? Yes, we do. There are 3. So this is alliteration. Remember, it's not about the letter. It's about a sound. And this is repeated 3 times. Wah, wah, wah. You have the 3, 1 here, wah, wah, and wah. So your job now is to pause this recording and go to your document that looks like this, and you are going to try to create 2 of your own alliterations here. If you like, you can use your own name and the name of a family member. I find it easiest to do it that way. You do not have to do it that way. You'll see my example says, Beth buys the best bananas at the beach. And then Devin, who's my husband, doesn't eat donuts during daylight hours. So each of those have 3 in them or more, and your job is to try down here. You'll try 1, and then you'll try another on your document. So pause right here while you do that. So the next poetic device that we're going to talk about is called assonance. So assonance is when you have, well, let's see if we can figure it out here. See if you can catch what assonance is. It says in the first line, and so all the night tide I lie down by the side. Do you hear something that is repeating our pattern in there? Try and look at this one down here. They beat the wiener dog in grease. So do you hear a repeated sound? It's not alliteration. They beat the wiener dog in grease. If you're catching it, you'll hear the E, E, E sound. And here it's I. So let's look at the second one that we skipped. It's a long sentence, but I'm going to help you out. It's down here that we're really going to focus. So we say, into the sky, lighting the land till it lay bathed in ghostly day. So you hear a repetition of A, lay, bathe, day. So that's one of the things. I don't really love that example. Let's move down to the fourth one. Hear the mellow wedding bells in Lellington. So do you hear the sound? Me, we, be, le. And our last one is, dead in the middle of Little Italy, little did we know that we riddled 2 middlemen who didn't do diddly. So it almost sounds like these rhyme, but they don't. It's not called rhyme, okay? We have an I sound, I, okay? There's a lot of is in there, and you'll notice that it's a repetition in all of these. It's a repetition of a sound, which is a vowel, in the middle of the word. So one thing it has to be is it has to be a vowel, or vocal in Spanish. It has to be a vowel sound that is repeated. And it's always in the middle part, or that's in order to qualify for assonance, it should be in the middle part of a word, meaning it's not the beginning sound, and it's not the end sound. So when we think about assonance in comparison to alliteration, assonance is something that is in the middle of a word, and alliteration was at the beginning of a word. Now, one other thing that's important to notice is, looking at this middle example again, notice that it is about the sound. It's not about a letter. So if you look at the one that we were talking about in the middle, the beat the wiener dog in grease, this one, EA goes E in English. IE in this case goes E. And EE also goes E. Beat, we, gree. So again, it's about the sound. It's has to be a vowel sound, and it's in the middle of the word. So now we're going to try some on the next slide. Oh, sorry, here's the answer key just so you can see it in a nice clean version. I lied again, here's the definition, not the trying yet, but this is exactly what we were writing. So we wrote that it has to be a vowel sound, and it's repeated in the middle of words, and that it does not also rhyme. So this is the next part we're going to be talking about, where we try to create ours. So it also needs to be at least 3 times and a three-peat. Let's talk about words that rhyme versus words that are assonance. So for instance, the word cat, bat, hat, sat, they all rhyme, and so those are not actually assonance. You can say, well, yeah, Miss Yates, but they all have that internal sound. Well, of course they do, because they all rhyme. But assonance should be things that don't also rhyme. So we're going to look at how we can create things that don't also rhyme in our next slide. So the best way that I think to do this is to think about a sound that you want to repeat. So for instance, let's see, we were just using the at sound. Now the a, because we can't just say a in English, unlike Spanish, a in English makes all kinds of sounds. It goes a like cat, it goes a like hate. It can do a variety of different sounds, and so in this case, we're going to say we want the a sound, the sound that cat or bat or hat or sat, the sound that those make. But we're going to try to list words that don't necessarily rhyme. So to think about this, I like to lay out the alphabet as you see here. So you have the alphabet, and then with that, to think about words that start with those letters that go a. So I always do it like this. I lay out the alphabet and then I say, okay, ba, ba. I can't really do a. There's nothing for a, but let's do the b, ba. I could say bat, but that rhymes with cat, so I'm not going to say that one. So instead I'll try some other things, like maybe bam, or batter. That would work. Or batting. What about C? I would say, I can't say cat, that is the word, but I could say like camera, or can, or camp, because all of those still go just like cat does. So you can do this for any letter, and I recommend trying to get 2, 3 for each letter that you can do. You might not be able to get all of them. For instance, let's go over down to L, like lamp, le, or last, or lastly, or laugh. All of those go a. So you have to listen for the sound. Does it go a? Because remember, I can't just go, what L words do I know? Look, Lena, Laura, but all of those don't have that internal a sound, so we really can't use any of those. So it has to be something that goes a if you're going to be thinking about that. So we're going to practice with the a sound and try to fill in as many of these as we can. Now let's look at the next slide that has a bunch on there already. So you see all of these. I've done a bunch of them on there for you. Notice that I didn't use all the letters, but I tried to do as many as I could, 2 or 3 for each one, so that in the end you can say, now that I have a bunch of these, can I pick a few out to make a sentence? Where I can use all of them and have assonance in it. So let's look at the example. You'll see here, what I did was I made a sentence out of some of these words. And my sentence was, my dad used his camera to take happy family pictures last Saturday. And you'll hear that repetition of And you'll also notice that there is an A in this word take. but it's not highlighted. And think about that. How come? Well, the answer is because this A doesn't go ah, it goes A. Tay, tay, not ah. So that doesn't count as the assonance. Again, it is not about the letter, it's about the sound. And it should be somewhere in the middle of the word, meaning it doesn't start the word and it doesn't end the word. So this one you'll say, oh, but it's the second letter. It doesn't matter. The initial sound is k, and the initial sound, or the ending sound is Now another one, this is another good example, camera. This one doesn't count because does this word sound, this A, go ah? We don't say camera, right? We say camera. And so in this case, only this one is highlighted. It's only the first A that makes the assonant sound. So another example down here would be Saturdays are for naps and pajamas and pancakes, jam. So you'll notice that none of these rhyme. They don't rhyme. Dad and camera do not rhyme. Camera and happy, family, none of these rhyme with each other. Same thing down here, naps, pajamas, pancakes, jam, Saturday. They do not rhyme, but they do have an internal sound, the ah sound, that is repeated. Again, notice that this A is not highlighted, this A is not highlighted, because this one goes us, pajamas, we don't say pajamas, and the last part in here says its own name, K, instead of ah. So we have to think about, does it make the sound? So now what I'm going to ask you to do is the same thing we did on the previous page, but with a different sound. We're not going to use ah anymore because I just did that example. We're going to do I in terms of sit. So you're going to try to think of words that have the I sound for each of the letters that you can in here. So try to do maybe 10 letters or more like I did on the last example. So you might think about this like starting with the B. You might say bit, but bit and sit rhyme, so we can't say that. What else can we say? Bin, or binge, or bill, like a dollar bill. And then you go down to C. Can we think of anything for C? I don't know if I can. Okay, so what can we do for D? For D, we could say like dinner or dimple. Okay, your job is to continue doing that on this page. Pause right here and do that on your document. Try to get at least 10 different letters. And for each letter, try to do 2 to 3 words. Pause. So now that you have a bunch of your words filled out that sound like the same I sound in sit, I, now that you have that, you are going to try to make a sentence with some of them that show assonance. Now remember, in order to have assonance, it has to have at least 3 usages of that I sound somewhere in the sentence. So your job is to try one here and one here, and then you will pause this video right now to do that, and when you're done, you'll come back. So the last part for today is the word stanza. And you need to know this because we're going to be using it in creating our own poems soon. So a stanza is like saying a paragraph in poetry. Because what a stanza is when things are divided, as you see here. So this poem has 3 stanzas. You would say this was stanza 1, this is stanza 2, and this is stanza 3. And you can tell because there's a space between them. So if you look over on the other side, this poem has 5 stanzas. Stanza 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the definition is here for you to see, just so you know. It's like a paragraph of poetry, a group of lines clustered together in one piece in a poem. And we're going to stop here for the first lesson. This is all day 1. You'll do the rest of this slideshow on day 2, which means tomorrow. So once you have done all of your examples, you have an example of alliteration, and you have an example of assonance, which means you have filled out that ABC page and you've done your examples. You will take this whole document and you will upload it into your shared folder, and I will be able to check it there and make comments on it. That's what you will do today.